Hi everyone, how are we doing? It was a warm summer night. I was 13 years old and I was at the end of the year party. Everything was as perfect as it could be for a 13-year-old girl. My boyfriend was there, young teenage hormones were in the air, all of my girlfriends were dating all of the boys. First kisses were happening left and right, and like I said, it was as perfect as it could be for a 13-year-old girl. But we all know that word perfect is a fallacy, right? How naive could I have been to think that that night would start and end with a smile on my face? About halfway into the party, my three best friends showed up. Now I knew that they were coming a little bit later, and I had chosen to arrive early with some of the other girls in my grade. Nonetheless, this was my crew. These were my girls, and I was so excited to see them. But about an hour later, an all-out screaming match had ensued among the four of us, with the three of them screaming at me and me screaming back, and what we were fighting about I can't exactly remember, but to make a long story short, that was the end of our tight-knit bond. And they left in tears, and I left in tears, and what happened next felt like hell for this 13-year-old girl. I had lost my three best friends. I was uninvited to their end-of-the-year pool party, and I remember feeling so alone and so lost, and I vividly remember crying to my mom over and over again about the same party and the same event, and as all moms do, she reassured me that, Shelby, everything's gonna be okay, this really isn't that big of a deal. But as all 13-year-old girls do, they don't listen, and I was convinced that this was the end of the world. And that event left a lasting impact on me. Yes, you heard me. That event, that one warm summer night when I was 13 years old, left a lasting impact on me that I didn't quite realize until about 10 years later. It took me until my early 20s to really fully understand what this event had done for me. And that is when I understood the mask phenomenon. So that whole year leading up to that party, I was wearing my very first mask. I was the popular girl. You see, what I neglected to tell you about me and those three girls was that we were a clique. And as much as we tried to deny that we were a clique, nobody else could join us. And we were mean, we were catty, and we were trying to navigate the waters of being a hormonal 13-year-old teenager with as much cool as we possibly could. Now, I fell in love with that mask, as twisted as it might sound. That was all I knew at the time, until it was ripped from me that one warm summer night. And in that fight, in that screaming match, I remember that pain I was feeling of being so exposed among all of the other girls and guys in my grade when we were screaming at each other, and it was just so bad. And I didn't know what to do next. So I did what felt normal to me, what felt natural to me. And I created more masks to hide behind, because I just couldn't let me, the real, raw, naked version of me, hang out to dry. I required something to hide behind. So over the next 4 or 5 years of my life, I created all of these masks to hide who I truly was. I was the nice girl. I was the popular girl. I was the experienced girl. I was the people pleaser girl. I was the party girl. And the worst of them all, I was the easy girl. And these masks became piled one on top of the other. And as you can probably guess, they became really heavy to bear. And the funny thing was, the way that I acted at home was nothing like the way I acted in public. And before I left for college, I was all of these masks. So when I left for college, I wasn't Shelby. I was the sometimes nice, popular, party girl, experienced girl, people pleaser girl, and the easy girl. I wasn't Shelby. But the person that I was at home around my family, where I felt safe and nurtured and loved, I was the caring, compassionate, driven girl with huge dreams and the ambitions to get there. But I was afraid to show that side in public. I was afraid to show that side because of that pain that I felt that one summer night when I was 13 years old and I was left raw, real, and exposed. I never wanted to feel so naked and exposed again. And I told myself that if I was the person that I was at home in public, that my friends would think I was fake because I was always that masked girl around them. So instead, I convinced myself that the me behind closed doors was the weird one, was the one that nobody would like, was the one that society would reject. And so I just continued to wear these masks. And it wasn't until I was 21 years old and I was a junior in college that I felt that pain of those masks weighing so heavy on me that I decided to rip them off one by one. So what am I here to share with you today? I want to talk more about these masks because I know I'm not the only person in this room that has them. So I want to go through some of these masks. Now, some of these masks might be you. They might be your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your family members, your friends. But we all have them. We've got the mom who has it all together, the people pleaser, the breadwinner, the macho man, the socialite, the frat boy, the gym rat, the hot girl, and there's so many more. And some of them don't even have names. They just have feelings. Now, here's the thing, guys. We all have them. And these masks are created by our mind to keep us safe so we don't embrace those fears that we have. And you might feel to yourself, well, I can't release my mask because then I'm exposed. And you might feel that pain and it's scary. But let me tell you something. Your mask is holding you back. Yes, it might feel nice to stay safe. It might feel nice not to be exposed, but my goal here today is to encourage you to stop hiding. Now, without getting too metaphysical on all of you, I want to say just one thing. We are here on this planet for a reason. We are here to do and be and have some really amazing experience and be some really amazing people and things. But if you're continuously hiding that person that you really are meant to be behind all of these masks, that's never going to happen for you. I want you to imagine all of those desires that you have. Maybe it's a car right now. Maybe it's this amazing job that you know you'd be perfect for. Maybe it's a relationship because your current relationship is not going the way you want to go. Maybe it's friendships. And I want you to imagine all of these things following this treasure map, trying to find you. And they're getting closer and closer, but you're wearing this mask. How are these things ever going to find you? Until you show up fully. So until you can stand in your own and show up fully, you cannot possibly attract that right relationship. You cannot possibly attract that right friendship. You cannot possibly attract that right job. You just can't. And you know what's a shame? So many of us, we're getting more and more into this inspirational thing and we're like, let's be ourselves, just be ourselves. But too many of us have these fears that hold us back. And we use these masks as a defense mechanism to keep us safe. They allow us to be who we believe we're supposed to be because society deems that person okay. They allow us to conceal our true being just in case our true being isn't going to be accepted. We live through these masks that keep us safe, and that was me all throughout my high school. And I know I'm young, and I know I still have a lot more stuff to go through, but when I was in high school, I was afraid to be that caring, compassionate, ambitious, driven girl that I was at home because I was afraid I was going to be made fun of for my wild dreams and crazy ideas. So I hid behind the party girl mask because it was way easier just to get drunk and go out and have fun. I was afraid to say no to people because I was afraid that I wouldn't fit in if I said no, or that people wouldn't like me or they would talk about me. So I became this people pleaser girl, and sorry, mom and dad, but I became this easy girl. I was afraid to say what was on my mind. I was afraid to stand up for what I believed in because I was afraid of being called bossy or being called a bitch. So I became the nice girl. And all of those things that I became stemmed from events that happened in the past, just like all of this stemmed from me that one summer night feeling so raw and exposed. So let's talk more about that, because all of these masks stem from fears, and all of our fears stem from some kind of event. Because here's the thing, guys. As humans, we are only born with two innate fears. They stem back from our primal ages: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. But I stand here today knowing that each and every one of us have so many more than just two fears. We have the realistic fears and we have the irrational fears too. Fun fact, I'm terrified of walk-in freezers. And that was from a certain event that I had. So all of these other fears that we have, we've learned through experiences. And we've put these masks on our face to hide ourselves from the pain of the fears and the experiences. And with every fear comes some kind of mask that we hide behind. We have the fear of failure, which usually means the overachiever mask. We have the fear of success, which usually means the I'm too cool for school mask. We have the fear of disapproval, which is the people pleaser mask. The fear of money, which is the altruistic money is the root of all evil mask. We have the fear of imperfection, which, this is obvious, it's the perfectionist mask. And so many of you might be thinking, well, those fears hurt me. You know, they came from a real reason. I was hurt, and of course I'm afraid now. And here I am encouraging you to shed your fears and to remove that mask and to feel again and to be that real, authentic self. And you might be thinking that, you know, I did that once and I was hurt. Why would I do it again? Well, I'm here today to tell you why you should do it again. But before I can do that, I need to cover one more fear. And it's the overarching fear that drives this entire mask phenomenon. And it's the fear of being vulnerable, being that real, authentic you, that person that is meant to do and be and have these great things. And you might be thinking, okay, well, so you tell me that there are these masks, and I can't think of what these masks are. I don't know how to become real and vulnerable because I don't think I have any masks. I'll be the first one to tell you, masks are sneaky. And you might have been wearing your mask for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you are so comfortable in that mask. And for me, that's what happened. I became so comfortable in this party girl mask that I couldn't shed it for quite some time. And so when I went into college, I was still wearing that party girl mask. And so what I want to share with you today is my journey about how I was able to peel back those masks in hope that it might inspire some of you and show you how you can peel back some of those masks. And just so you know, these masks are created by our mind, so our mind is playing tricks on us here. So for me, my journey started back in 2012 when I went to college. So like I said, I had piled on all of these different kinds of masks throughout high school. So I went to college as this popular party girl. So naturally, when I rushed my sorority, I rushed as this popular party girl. So I ended up choosing the sorority that best fit that mask, not which best fit me. But like I said, we can get really comfortable with those masks. So I was really happy about my choice. I thought, this is it. I found my sisters. I am so excited. And it allowed me to hide further and further and further into that popular party girl mask. And that was until 6 months in when I started to get this feeling that it wasn't right. I started to get this feeling, this gut instinct that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. And so I listened. And this was the first time I was open to listening. Because like I said, these masks are created by our mind, and our mind wants to keep us safe. So for all of my life that I was wearing these masks, my mind was just ignoring those gut feelings and those instincts and those little voices inside my head that was saying, Shelby, this is not where you're supposed to be. But at this point in my life, I was finally opening myself up and open to listening. And so I made the decision to disaffiliate. And I want to say one thing. It's not that I thought that my sorority was bad, or not that I think that sororities are bad in general. I just realized that the girl that chose the sorority was not the girl that I was anymore. And let me tell you what happened after I began to listen. I finally committed myself to the love of my life, who will tell you himself I was not very nice to him when I was in that sorority. I was so ingrained with this mask. I was finally able to embrace that caring, compassionate, driven young woman now, the one who I was so afraid of showing off when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. I finally gained a better understanding of all of these different masks I was hiding behind, so it made it easier to continue to peel back one after the other. And the more vulnerable I became, the more real and authentic I felt. And then, here's the last one, I began to become more brave. I began to feel more comfortable putting myself out there and saying, this is me, and this is who I am. Now, that wasn't always met with love, let me remind you, because nothing great is ever easy. So one of the things that I did to really start coming into my own was I started posting these motivational videos on my Facebook. Because part of the real authentic me wanted to share these messages of inspiration and love and courage and change. And one of my dreams, and it still is to be a motivational speaker. And so I started posting these videos on Facebook. And all of a sudden, I get this text from one of my high school friends. Coincidentally, one of the same girls who was part of that clique back when I was 13 years old. She asks me, Shelby, are those videos that you're posting for your summer internship? I said, no, I'm choosing to post them. And her response to me was, they scare me. They're not you. And what I responded back actually astonished me because it almost felt like these words weren't mine, but I said, the me you knew was not me. Now, the masked version of myself would have spent so much time worrying and defending who I was becoming. I would have said I'm sorry for the videos if they offended her, and I might have even taken them down. But this unmasked, raw, real, naked version of myself that I was finally evolving into stood strong in who I am. And I left those videos up, and I keep putting those videos out. And I don't think she watches them, but that's okay. But it's not always that easy, right? These masks can keep us from standing up for what we know deep down is right. Like I said, these masks are controlled by our mind, and our mind wants to stop us from hurting. It wants to keep us safe. But guys, your body already knows what's right. That's what those gut instincts are. That's what those gut feelings are that you get when you know that something isn't sitting well with you. That's what that little head inside your heart and your mind that says, a little voice that says, hey, you're not meant to be doing this. You're not meant to be in that relationship. You're not meant to be in this job. You are not meant to be doing this. And our mind tries to trick us into not listening to those signs. Our mind just tries to keep us safe and keep us logical. Because our mind doesn't want us to hurt. And it knows that the more vulnerable you become, the more it's going to force you to become more real with who you are, and that is scary. Because as Marianne Williams says, we are capable beyond our wildest dreams. And this doesn't happen overnight, guys. This is a journey, so it takes time, and your mind doesn't know if you're ready for that. But this whole suffering part of it, this whole painful part of it, it's part of the human condition. Look at people like Buddha. Look at people like Jesus. They all had to go through suffering to get to the land of promise. And it was always worth it in the end, and it'll be the exact same thing for you too. So again, to go back to this mind thing, your mind is always trying to go the logical route. It's trying to make sense of things. It's trying to take those feelings that you have and make sense of them. But those feelings aren't always meant to be made sense of. They're just there so you can follow. And again, your mind is trying to keep you safe, but the key to a life of fulfillment is not staying safe. And it just comes down to starting with that first mask. That's what I did. And for most of you in this room, you know what I'm talking about. It might not be the mask to you, but you have that gut feeling. You have that little voice inside of your head that's telling you something isn't right, and that's a sign. And that's your mask. That's your very first mask, so honor that feeling. And it'll get easier and easier and easier to continue honoring those feelings, and soon enough, those masks will start falling off. That's what happened for me. That first mask was already coming off when I had that realization about my sorority. And so I listened, and I got better at listening. And then the second mask came off, and the third mask came off, and the fourth, and the fifth, and I'm not going to stand up here and tell you how many masks I had to take off. But just know that I can stand up here and authentically say that I am the happiest I've ever been, because I am standing in my own power and who I am really, truly meant to be. So the brilliant thing about this mask phenomenon is that now that you are aware of what these masks are doing to you and what they are holding you back from, you have a choice. You can walk out of this room knowing full well that you have a mask, and you can continue wearing that mask and playing it safe. But you also know full well that you can never live that life that you truly desire if you can never show up fully. And then your second choice is this. Your second choice is that you can walk out of this room and start to go to work on yourself, and to start to listen more and listen to those signs that are in your body, those gut feelings, that little voice, and you can begin to honor them. And slowly but surely, those masks will begin to fall off, and you can become the real, raw, naked version of you. And you can have all that you desire, what you want, love, and need. And the choice is yours, and I challenge you to go with the second choice. I challenge you to remove those masks and begin to create that future that you truly deserve. So, I took this picture in San Francisco, and this is when I was really coming into myself, so let me end with this one question. What future will you create? Thank you.